Hello everyone. In this video we are going to study humerus under these headings: introduction, site determination, bony features, attachments, ossification, special points and applied aspect. Humerus is the bone of arm. It is the longest bone of upper limb. It is having an upper end, shaft and a lower end. Site determination. For that we need to remember 3 points. First point, that is the upper end, which is spheroidal, and that is forming head. This head should remain superiorly, and the lower end, which is flattened anteroposteriorly and expanded side to side. Second point, that is medial and lateral aspect. This spheroidal head should remain on medial aspect. Third point, anterior and posterior aspect. So this upper end, which is having two tubercles, lesser tubercle and greater tubercle, that lesser tubercle should remain on anterior aspect, and a groove that is between these two tubercles, which is called intertubercular sulcus, it should remain behind and lateral to the lesser tubercle. Coming to bony features, upper end, which is having a globular head, lesser tubercle, greater tubercle, sulcus between these two, that is the intertubercular sulcus, and neck. Head of the humerus is spheroidal, which articulates with the glenoid cavity of the scapula like this, and forming the ball and socket variety of synovial joint. Lesser tubercle, which is having a bony impression. Greater tubercle, which is having 3 bony impressions. This head is separated from the rest of the upper end by a constricted portion, which is called anatomical neck. Intertubercular sulcus, which is present between lesser tubercle and greater tubercle. This is intertubercular sulcus. Long head of the biceps brachii, its tendon passes from this sulcus, so it is also called bicipital groove. It is having 2 lips, medial lip and lateral lip. Coming to the shaft. The shaft of the humerus is cylindrical in upper portion and triangular in lower portion in cross section. So it is having 3 borders and 3 surfaces: anterior border, medial border and lateral border. Anterior border is the lower extension of this lateral lip of intertubercular sulcus. In lower part it is rounded. Medial and the lateral borders, they are more prominent in the lower portion. In lower portion they are forming medial and lateral supracondylar ridges. This medial supracondylar ridge, it is extended upwards as medial border like this. We can see medial border here, and this lateral supracondylar ridge, it is extended upwards as lateral border like this, but this border becomes rounded in upper portion. So these are the 3 borders: anterior border, medial border and lateral border. 3 surfaces: anteromedial surface, anterolateral surface and posterior surface. Anteromedial surface is present between anterior border and medial border. This is anteromedial surface. Anterolateral surface, here this is anterolateral surface. It is present between anterior border and lateral border. And posterior surface, it is present between medial and lateral borders. This is our posterior surface. Okay, so this anteromedial surface, normally it bears a nutrient foramen. In this view we can see a nutrient foramen which is directed downwards. Can you see this nutrient foramen? It is directed downwards because upper end of the humerus is the growing end. So the direction of nutrient foramen is opposite to the growing end. Anterolateral surface. This anterolateral surface, somewhere in the middle here, there is a V-shaped roughened elevated portion which is called deltoid tuberosity. This V-shaped roughened elevated portion is called deltoid tuberosity because deltoid muscle is inserted on this tuberosity. Posterior surface. Posterior surface bears a groove or a sulcus. Here we can see this groove or the sulcus which is spiral. It breaches the lateral border and comes on anterolateral surface like this. It is directed downwards and laterally. From this sulcus, radial nerve passes. So this is called radial groove or spiral sulcus. Radial groove or spiral sulcus here. And above this spiral sulcus there is an oblique line. Can you see this oblique line? There is an oblique line above the spiral sulcus. Okay, so this is all about bony features of shaft. Now coming to the lower end of the humerus, which is having some articular and some non-articular parts. Articular parts are capitulum and trochlea, and non-articular parts are fossa, medial and lateral epicondyles and supracondylar ridges. Starting with articular portions, capitulum, which is spheroidal elevated portion which articulates with the head of the radius, disc-like head of the radius like this. It is articulated like this and forming a part of elbow joint, that is radiohumeral joint. So inferior and anterior aspect of this capitulum articulates with the radial head. During the full flexion of the elbow joint, head of the radius, it is situated in the fossa above the capitulum here, over here. So this fossa is called radial fossa. Trochlea. It is asymmetrical pulley shaped articular part which is having two flanges, lateral flange and medial flange. The medial edge of the trochlea, it is 6 mm lower than the lateral edge. We can see in this medial edge is 6 mm lower than the lateral edge. It articulates with the trochlear notch of ulna. It articulates with the trochlear notch of the ulna like this. This trochlear notch of the ulna is formed by coronoid process and olecranon process. During extension of the elbow joint, this olecranon process on posterior aspect, this olecranon process is situated in the fossa above the trochlea on posterior aspect, this fossa. This is called olecranon fossa, as olecranon process is fitted in this part. So this is called olecranon fossa, and during the flexion of elbow joint, during the full flexion of the elbow joint, like this coronoid process of ulna is situated in the fossa above the trochlea on anterior aspect. So this fossa is called coronoid fossa. So we can say this lower end is having three fossa: above the capitulum, radial fossa; above the trochlea, coronoid fossa anteriorly; and on posterior aspect, larger olecranon fossa. Clear? Now coming to epicondyles, medial epicondyle, which is more prominent, and it is posteriorly related with ulnar nerve. Lateral epicondyle, which is not so prominent. Above the medial epicondyle, there is medial supracondylar ridge, and above the lateral epicondyle, there is lateral supracondylar ridge. So this is all about bony features. Attachments of humerus, starting with the upper end. Around the anatomical neck, fibrous capsule of shoulder joint is attached, but it is deficient just above the intertubercular sulcus for the passage of tendinous long head of biceps brachii muscle. So it is deficient over here, and on the inferior aspect over here it is extended around 1 centimeter downwards, like this, up to the surgical neck. Okay, then attachments on the lesser and greater tubercles. On the lesser tubercle, there is attachment of multipinnate subscapularis muscle. On the greater tubercle, as I told you, it is having three bony impressions. So they give attachment to respectively supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and teres minor muscle. On the lips of this intertubercular sulcus, on the medial lip, there is attachment of teres major. On the lateral lip, there is attachment of pectoralis major muscle in the form of bilaminar pattern, and in the groove in the floor of the sulcus, attachment of latissimus dorsi. These attachments we can remember by the mnemonic lady between two major, centrally latissimus dorsi, and on the lips medially teres major, laterally pectoralis major. Okay, one thing I forgot to tell you in the previous video, that neck of humerus, this first is the anatomical neck, which separates head of the humerus from rest of the upper end. It is over here, this constricted portion. Same way, the upper end of the humerus, it is separated from the shaft by another constriction. This is called surgical neck, because it is related posteriorly with the axillary nerve, like this, and so it is called surgical neck. And 0.5 centimeter above the surgical neck, that is morphological neck, which separates diaphysis from the epiphysis in young humerus. In adult humerus, this morphological neck disappears. So basically there are three necks: anatomical neck, surgical neck, and morphological neck. Okay, so this is the attachments on the intertubercular sulcus. Tendinous long head of biceps brachii, it passes from this bicipital groove along with its synovial sheath and one artery, that is the ascending branch of anterior circumflex humeral artery. It also passes from this sulcus. This is all about attachments of upper end. Coming to the shaft, on the anteromedial surface, somewhere over the middle, there is insertion of coracobrachialis muscle. On anterolateral surface, on deltoid tuberosity, there is insertion of deltoid muscle, and the whole this upper portion of anterolateral surface is covered by that deltoid muscle. on the inferior or the lower aspect of this anteromedial and anterolateral surface. There is origin of brachialis muscle like this. This is the origin of brachialis muscle on the posterior aspect. We know that triceps brachii is the muscle of back of the arm which is having three heads: long head, lateral head and medial head. Long head is getting origin from scapula. Lateral head is getting origin from this oblique ridge present above the radial sulcus, and the medial head is getting origin from the whole posterior surface below the radial sulcus. So on the posterior surface, lateral head and the medial head of triceps brachii muscle are getting origin, and from this radial sulcus, radial nerve passes along with profunda brachii artery. This is about attachments over the shaft. Now coming to the lower end of humerus, on medial and lateral supracondylar ridges, intermuscular septa are attached. Other than that, on medial supracondylar ridge in lower portion, there is origin of pronator teres muscle. Here, pronator teres muscle. On lateral supracondylar ridge, here origin of in upper 2/3 portion brachioradialis, and in lower 1/3 portion extensor carpi radialis longus. So on the lateral supracondylar ridge, two muscles are getting attached: in upper 2/3 brachioradialis and on lower 1/3 extensor carpi radialis longus. Coming to epicondyles, on medial epicondyle, on its anterior aspect, all the superficial flexor muscles are getting origin. So medial epicondyle is also called common flexor origin. On lateral epicondyle, all the superficial extensor muscles of forearm are getting origin. So it is also called common extensor origin. Other than that, on the posterior aspect, some fibers of anconeus muscles are getting origin. So medial epicondyle, common flexor origin; lateral epicondyle, common extensor origin. Coming to the fibrous capsule of elbow joint, which is attached in a manner that all the three fossa are included like this. It is attached in this manner that all the three fossa are included, but this epicondyle, here this is lateral epicondyle, so attachment over here is like this, that this lateral epicondyle is excluded. Olecranon fossa is included like this, but this medial epicondyle is excluded. So capsular ligament of elbow joint includes fossa but excludes epicondyles. Clear? So this is all about the attachments of humerus. Now coming to ossification point. A humerus ossifies from one primary center, that is for the shaft, which appears at around 8th week of intrauterine life. There are total 7 secondary centers, 3 for the upper end and 4 for the lower end. 3 centers for the upper end are 1 for the head, 1 for the lesser tubercle and 1 for the greater tubercle. And for the lower end, there are 4 centers, 1 center for the medial epicondyle, 1 center for the medial flange of the trochlea, 1 center for the lateral flange and capitulum, and 1 center for lateral epicondyle. This is about the ossification. Coming to the nutrient artery. Nutrient artery of the humerus is a branch of brachial artery. Now some special points regarding this bone. First, supratrochlear condyle. Sometimes around 5 cm above this medial epicondyle, there is a process somewhere over here which is called supracondylar process. When this process is present, it is connected with the medial epicondyle by a ligament that is called ligament of Struthers. Ligament of Struthers, which is phylogenetically third head of coracobrachialis muscle. When this ligament is present, median nerve and brachial artery passes beneath this ligament, and there are chances that they may get compressed by this ligament. Second point, angle of humeral torsion. This long axis of upper end of the humerus and long axis of lower end of humerus, they are not in the same plane, but there is an angle. There is an angle that is called angle of humeral torsion, which is around 164 degrees. Third point, carrying angle. Carrying angle, that long axis of arm and long axis of forearm. Long axis of arm and long axis of forearm, they are not in same line, but there is a deviation, and so an angle is formed between them, which is called carrying angle, and that is around 10 to 15 degrees, which is perceived during the full extension and supination of the forearm. This angle is because, as I told you in bony features, that this medial edge is around 6 millimeters lower than the lateral edge. So an angle is formed, and this angle is wider in females because of broader pelvis. One more point, this bone humerus is related to 3 nerves. One, axillary nerve around the surgical neck. Second, radial nerve, that is passing from the radial sulcus. And third, ulnar nerve, that passes behind the medial epicondyle. All these 3 nerves are directly related to the bone, and that so there are chances that they may get compressed during the fracture of the bone. Now coming to applied aspect, fracture. Most common sites of fracture are surgical neck, middle of the shaft, and supracondylar part. In the case of fracture of surgical neck, there are chances that it may cause injury to the axillary nerve, and so paralysis of deltoid muscle, which is supplied by this nerve. In the fracture of the shaft, mainly at the junction of an upper 2/3 and the middle, upper 1/3 and the middle 1/3, which is having least blood supply. So there are chances that if the fracture in this region, then it may cause delayed union or non-union. In the case of supracondylar fracture, it may cause injury to median nerve and brachial artery. If there is injury to the brachial artery, it causes Walkman's ischemic contracture. So this is all about applied aspect. Thank you.